I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher, and back with you today for episode number 24. I hope you all have been well. Today is Sunday, I almost said June, oh my gosh, May the 30th. And we are actually celebrating Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. For those who may not know, Memorial Day weekend is when we take some time to think about and reflect on and give thanks for all the men and women who have served in our military, and particularly those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And so it's a time to really reflect on that and keep them in our thoughts. One thing that I thought was kind of neat, so it seemed like it's kind of on a related note. So a lot of you really enjoyed seeing and hearing about Gary's ship that he served on when he was in the Navy. And I was really excited by one of the comments that we got in response, and I wanted to mention it. Connie Verbeck said her grandson is now serving and got home from active duty on the USS Nimitz in March, and it's been really nice to be able to hug him. Connie, I don't know if you know this, but actually where we live, the return of the Nimitz was a big deal in our community because we live just south of Bremerton, where the Nimitz is in port, or where it's based. So I'm guessing, since you said you got to hug your grandson, that you may be a local stitcher to me. And so if that's so, I'll leave a comment on your comment. But if you are interested, we have a local stitching group here in Kitsap that is just starting to maybe get together again soon. And so we would love to have you join us if you are interested. But anyway, I just thought it was really cool that your grandson is serving and that he was on the Nimitz. And so I hope that you're enjoying spending time with him. And of course, we're really appreciative of his service. We have an exciting milestone or event coming up this week in our family, and that is that it is Sophie's, we think, birthday. Sophie is going to be turning 5, and we don't know when her actual birthday is. We know she was born probably sometime in the first week of June, but beyond that, we don't know her precise birthday. So Sophie came to us. We've had her, it'll be 5 years this summer, and we were really fortunate we were able to adopt her when she was still a puppy. But she actually came to us from a rescue group in Texas, and her start, she had a little bit of a rough start in life. Her entire litter, we don't know if something happened to the mama dog, or if the mom abandoned the puppies, or if somebody just left the puppies, but the babies were all found underneath in a pile of rocks underneath a bridge down near Houston, Texas. And so somebody was just, I don't know if they were walking by or driving by, but they said they saw a movement in the rocks, and so they went to go check it out, and they found this whole litter of like 8 puppies. And so we're really thankful that they took the time to go check that out, because it was, hot weather, no water, that kind of thing. And so the pups were in pretty bad shape. And so thankfully they got them all to this great local rescue, and then we were able to adopt her. And so, like I said, she's been with us now for, it'll be 5 years in August since she's been with us. And so her approximate birthday is the week of June 1st. And so we always celebrate her birthday on June 1st. And so we're really happy to have her as part of our family. I think we're going to try and take her for a little hike this week. She and Bear love to go for hikes and walks. And so I think that'll be a fun way to celebrate her birthday. So let's go ahead and get started on the stitching. The first thing I have to show you is I had a finish. I have been working on Seasons Spring by Leila's Studio, and I've been stitching it on a 32 count French Vanilla Swirl Wexford Linen by Silk Weaver. The last time you saw this, it was very, very close to a finish. I had done everything except for I had a little bit of stitching left to finish up on one of the birds, and I needed to do the last quilt star. So here it is, all done, and I absolutely love it. I think the colors are really beautiful. I love the way they look on this fabric, and I am really, really excited about it. I had intentions earlier this week to drive down to Portland to go to Acorns and Threads to get some finishing fabric and some trims, and wasn't able to get down there, unfortunately. So it's going to take me a little bit longer to get this finished into a pillow than I had hoped. I might try and find some great finishing fabrics locally instead, but really, really pleased with how it turned out. I just think it's really pretty, and I can't wait to have it all finished up and ready to put out maybe on my tiered tray next year when spring rolls around again. So that is that. Yeah, I really love it. I think it's great. Okay. The next design I will show you is, let's talk about whips. So we'll start with Gary's whip, which was a new start the last time that we filmed. It was a new start with no stitches in it, but we should.
This is a newer start.
It's a newer start.
A newer start.
So Gary is working on To Market by Hannah's Needlecraft, and he's stitching it on a 16 count beautiful beige Aida. This is a great design. It's it's a row of people, children and women and animals, and all heading to the market, to a local African market. It's a great design. Did I say what you're stitching it on? 16 count beautiful beige Aida?
Yeah.
Okay.
You did. I just heard it.
Okay. We're off to a rockin' good start here. All right, so this is where Gary is right now.
I'm sorry, he just looks like he's doing some kind of weird dance.
He does. He's missing some limbs.
Yeah, he needs feet.
Do you want to talk about him at all?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to get this one done by the time I want it done. And that's, oh, excuse me. Anyway, and that's because it's very intricate. It's like when you look at this thing, all of that, everything you see on there needs to be backstitched, right? Literally, virtually every square on that thing, in some way, shape, or form, needs to be backstitched. And I haven't filled in his center part, which then needs to be backstitched, and the grass below him, which I don't think that's backstitched, but then you use a backstitch technique to, anyway, there's a lot of backstitching in this thing. Lots of it. It's gonna be wild.
How excited are you about that? I'm really excited to see this come to life. I loved this design the first time I saw it. So this, I believe, is going to be, once the back stitching starts to go in, is going to be a basket of maize.
Maybe got backstage. Sorry, that was inappropriate.
It was. Please,
go for
if
it.
you can.
I'm sorry, keep going.
Let's all just pretend Gary didn't say that. Anyway, yeah, so there'll be this whole row of people going across, but I think it looks really great, and I just really enjoy seeing Gary work on this and bringing it to life. So, yeah.
You have to be real careful with this one. It's very easy to miscount. Very easy. You gotta be real careful with it.
Yeah.
Real careful.
Real careful.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we've done a little bit of frogging already. He was, this leg he was going to be a little bit short in the leg.
That's the frogging you did.
I did.
You don't know about the frogging I've done.
Oh. Two stitchers have frogged this episode.
You see that hand? It was one box closer. Anyway.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go. So I think one of the things that Gary and I were talking about is that he's, I think, gonna to kind of keep the backstitch, because there is so much backstitch in this design, rather than waiting until he's completely finished at the end to do the backstitching. I think he's going to, as he finishes each person, do the backstitching and then move on to the next person. I think that'll make it a little less tedious. So, okay. There we go. Let's see. The next thing I have to show you is my full coverage piece, which is Rose Trellis In. This is a Heaven and Earth Designs chart of Randall Spangler's art. And I am stitching it on 28 count white Lugana 2/1 using a combination of the half stitch and the continental tent stitch. Let's see here. The last time you saw this, I was partway finished with stitching the second window in the dormer, and I had finished the chimney and I was almost all the way across the top of the second row of pages. And so this time I got a surprising amount done. I was really, really excited with what I was able to get accomplished. So the first couple of days I worked on it, I started my stitching late in the day and only got, and I was in some heavy confetti areas, so only got like 100 to 150 stitches a day for the first 2 or 3 days. And I was just thinking to myself, oh boy, this is going to be really something. I'm not going to make much progress. And then happily, I was able to actually really pick up the pace. And so this is where it is now. So as you can see, I've now finished all of this metal filigree work that runs along the top of the house. I've now reached the far end of the roof and have finished that. And I finished all the stitching in the window. Part of the window is covered up by these leaves of this tree, but the actual window stitching is all done for this row of pages. The other thing I felt like I hit a nice milestone is I'm all the way now across the top of this row of pages and have started working my way down, so my diagonals are now getting much shorter. I would love to think that I could finish this last chunk of stitching the next time this comes up. Realistically, that probably won't happen. We'll see. The nice thing is now that I'm no longer stitching in the house and I'm just kind of stitching back into the background, it goes from being really heavy confetti to being moderately heavy confetti. So the stitching goes a lot more quickly from this point forward, at least for finishing off this row of pages. So probably won't finish these last 2 pages here the next time I work on it, but I think I'll be able to get pretty close. So I'm really, really excited about that. I'm not really excited about the fact that there's 1,000,000 dog hairs on here. Sorry guys, we'll deal with that later. At any rate, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of something or other to deal with that situation. But I am really loving this design, and I'm really excited to finish this off and get down into the next row of pages. I think it's just starting to really come to life, and so yeah, really pleased with where that is right now. Okay, the next design I have to show you is my wild card stitching. And for those of you who don't know, so first of all, this design is Bush Market by Hannah's Needlecraft. So this is a companion piece to the design that Gary is stitching.
It'll be done before mine.
No. In this case, no. So for those of you that are newer to our channel and are not as familiar with how my rotation works, I have 5 spots in my rotation, but 4 spots that get kind of really, really regular work. And those are themed spots so that I can kind of work on a little bit of everything. So I've got a full coverage spot, which you've just seen. I've got a sampler spot. I've got a fancy lady slot, and then I've got seasonal or gift stitching. But I recognized last year that kind of that doesn't leave space for me to stitch things that aren't necessarily clearly in one of those categories. And there's a lot of charts that I have that I'd still like to do that don't fit. And so I decided to add sort of a wild card spot to my rotation, which is sort of a non-themed design that I want to work on. And so I debated when I first added this to my rotation about whether or not to give it a full week like I give everything else, or to kind of figure out some other way. And I decided, at least, I may change this up at some point in the future, but for now, what I do with my wild card is when I have a finish in one of the other spots of my rotation, before I start a new design, I put in a day or 2 working on my wild card. So this one makes much slower progress than most of my other pieces. But fortunately, at least for the chart that I'm working on, the stitching goes pretty quickly. So as I said, this is Bush Market by Hannah's Needlecraft. I'm stitching it on 32 count vintage country mocha linen using all the called for DMC flosses. And this design, the last time you saw it, I had made more progress in the tree, and I had finally got to start working on, there's a lady that is standing underneath the tree and she's holding her baby. And so this is where I am now. I got about 400, maybe 450 stitches this last time that I worked on it. So I stitched in more of this branch of the acacia tree over here, and then stitched in some more of the lady and her baby. And one thing I want to note about the lady here is I decided to make a change to what's charted there. In the original design, the lady is wearing a very low cut tank top. And I cannot speak for all parts of Africa because there are many countries in Africa, many cultures and customs. And I have not been to all of those countries, but I have spent a great deal of time in the last 10 years in East Africa. I've also spent some time in West Africa, but I've spent a lot of time in East Africa, and I've been throughout all of the countries in that area. I've been in the cities, I've been in the rural areas and the villages. I've been, in multiple regions of those countries. So I've got a pretty good feel for what life looks like there. And what I can tell you from my experience in those parts of Africa is that women do not typically wear low-cut tank tops. Just the cultural norms are to be a little bit more modest, to be a little bit more covered up. That doesn't mean that everybody wears a high neck, long sleeve dress. But you don't see a lot of women wearing really low cut tops or tank tops. You see a lot of, just normal blouses with sleeves. And so I decided that, every time, the one thing that kind of catches my eye every time I see this design, the first thing that catches my eye is this lady in a tank top that I just wouldn't normally see on the ladies that I interact with. And so I decided that I wanted to make her look like, the women that I see in the markets. And so what I have done is I went ahead and changed it, and I gave her a little, a little bit more coverage in the bust. And then I put some short sleeves on her blouse rather than having it be a tank top. And I think it'll show up a little bit more clearly once the back stitching goes in on her. But I think she's a lot more representative of, she's now going to be a lot more representative of what I'm used to seeing when I'm in East Africa. There's another lady that's sitting under an umbrella that's over on this part of the design, and she has like an off-the-shoulder blouse. I'll probably do the same thing for her and kind of give her a full sleeve as well, just to make sure that it looks like the Africa that I know. But other than that, really love this, and I think it's a great design. It's a lot of fun to stitch on, and it makes me a bit homesick for Africa, since we haven't been able to travel for over a year now, and really reminds me of the places I've been and the people that I've seen. So this is Bush Market. Okay, let's see. The next piece that I have been working on is Feast of Friendship by Blackbird Designs. I am stitching this on a 35 count tin roof linen by Weeks Dye Works. And the last time you saw this, I was almost finished with stitching in the fruit bowl. I had stitched all of the top border and most of the border on the right hand side, and I had a really good solid start on the house. This time I've really made good progress on this. I'm really pleased with where it is. So I have finished stitching all 3 of these borders. This Feast of Friendship banner at the bottom is almost finished. There's just a couple of accent stitches that need to go in there, and then that banner will be finished. You can see I've completely finished the fruit bowl. I've done the pumpkin, and then I've also stitched more in on the various fruit elements that are in the fruit bowl. And then I would say I'm about 2/3 of the way finished with the house now. So it's really coming along. I am so pleased with how these colors are popping on this fabric. I think it's really beautiful. And I am stitching this with all the called for flosses except for one. There was one of the green colors that was called for that just did not show up on this fabric. And so I did switch that out for a darker shade of DMC, but everything else is all the called for. And one thing I would say about this, if this is a chart you're thinking about stitching, I know sometimes when we're being a little bit budget conscious and we're kitting up projects that call for the fancy flosses or the variegated flosses, sometimes if you're only stitching, a few small elements or a handful of stitches, it's really not worth spending the extra money for those. This is a chart where I would say for the most part, it really is worth the money to get the called for flosses and to get that variegation in. I think it really is, I think in this particular case, it's worth the extra cost to invest in those for this chart. So I really love this. It's such a wonderful celebration of autumnal tones. I really love these blues and grays that are in this house and pairing those with there's like 1,000 shades of different oranges in here, which is great. And I am so excited to be able to have this framed and out on display this fall and for Thanksgiving this year. It is really, really beautiful. And I am really, really pleased with how this looks on the fabric that I chose. I think it was a good choice for it. So that's where I am on Feast of Friendship. Yeah, loving it. Okay, the last whip that wait, is that it? Yeah, that's it for actual whips. I have one last piece to show you, and that is a new start. So because I was able to finish my Seasons Spring by Leela's Studio, I got to have a new start in my travel stitching category. And what I decided to start was Seasons Autumn, also by Leela's Studio. I am stitching this on 32 count pecan Wexford linen by Silkweaver. And I got a reasonably good new start on this. So this is where I am. You can see I've got a quilt star done, most of a bird. That bird is not finished yet, but it's mostly done. Got a few leaves and then the first bit of branch here. This one, it feels like the stitching is not quite as dense as it was for the spring design, and so I think this one may stitch up a little bit more quickly. One thing that I want to note, when I was kitting this up, on the subject of saving money and not buying flosses if they're not heavily used in a design, if they're variegated. When I was kitting this up, the chart calls for Cast Iron Skillet by Gentle Arts. And when I was looking at the chart, I was only seeing it being used to outline. So there's a cauldron in the center that all of these sort of leaves and twigs kind of sit in. And it looked like it was the cast iron skillet was only used to outline that. And so I was like, I'm not going to buy a fancy floss for that. I'll just use DMC 310 for the black and call it good. So I started stitching this and immediately realized after I finished the quilt star and went to start the bird that the two birds in the design were actually charted in the cast iron skillet. And so I thought to myself, it's not a heavily variegated, and so I was like, well, maybe I'll just use DMC 310 for that. And I just wasn't feeling the black for the birds. And so I did decide to make a change, and I've changed the color of the birds. I'm going to stitch them in a dark blue. And I think that's just going to look really, really lovely. I'm liking how it's playing out with the colors in the design. I did end up picking up a skein of cast iron skillet at the local stitching shop here. And so I may use that for some other elements of the design, but at least for my birds, they're going to be blue instead of black. So yeah, enjoying this so far, and this is my start on Seasons Autumn by Leela's Studio. Okay, so we've had a couple of questions on recent videos that I wanted to respond to. First of all, got a question from Susan Alba. And Susan has just recently started working on Celtic Autumn. She is doing the Janet Granger conversion, which I stitched last year. So Susan, I hope that you are enjoying that. It's so, so beautiful, and I think you're going to really love it. But Susan asked, how I sewed my beads on. She said, did you match the floss to the bead color and jump all over, or use a neutral color to stitch all the colors of beads in a section? Would you suggest monofilament? So I think that's a great question, Susan. I actually, a couple of years ago, switched to, let me see if I can show this effectively. I switched to a beading thread. So let's see, this may... Yeah, that's just gonna... Never mind.
So you just tried to hide white
Shush.
with white?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna put a picture of them so you do what you want to.
Got it.
And I just bumped the camera, so
You
that's
did.
what happened.
It's what happened. It's all right. So this is Nymo beading thread. We're just gonna move along and pretend none of that awkwardness happened. This is Nymo beading thread. It's readily available on 1-2-3 Stitch.
Can you use floss, dental floss?
No.
Okay.
This looks a lot like a thin fishing line. It probably feels a little bit like a thin fishing line as well. Not that I know much about fishing line. But I use this for all my beading. And what I like about it is it's sort of like a clear neutral that really does disappear into the stitches and you don't see it. And it's great because you don't have to worry about what the base color of your fabric is. You don't have to worry about what the thread colors are that you're stitching next to. You don't have to try and match anything. It's just, this is a one-stop shop for all of your beading. What's great too is this little bobbin lasts forever. I can't remember if I started this. I think I bought this when I was working on Sabrina over a year ago, but I may have bought this and used it midway through Celtic Autumn. I'm less than halfway through the bobbin. I used it for Celtic Autumn. I'm using it for my Royal Holiday, and I've got plenty left. So this is what I would recommend. I think this is a great product. It's not expensive and it goes a long way. The other thing that I really like about the Nymo thread, there's a couple things. One is I find it actually a lot stronger and it holds my beads more securely than I was able to get with embroidery floss. So I feel like I get a better hold with it. And I also find it's a lot easier to thread my beading needles with this than it was with the embroidery floss. It just slips right into the little eye, those teeny tiny eyes on the beading needles that can be really hard to thread. Usually this slips right in there with no problem, whereas I always had to fight or use a threader for the embroidery floss. So this is what I would recommend. Yeah, that's what I suggest. I've also been getting a lot of questions lately from folks that are wondering about my floss bobbins. So I'm going to actually pull this up and show these to you again. So on a couple of my designs where I'm parking, primarily on my full coverage piece here and on my Royal Holiday, my Mirabilia, I choose to park. And I use these floss bobbins to hold my parked threads out of the way. So these are fantastic because they keep the flosses clean, keep them from getting tangled, and also just keep them out of the way when you don't need to be working with them. And so I'll just show you how these work. Now these particular ones I got on Amazon. They're called Bobbies. They come in a pack of 5 or 6. They were less than $10, so really inexpensive. And they work really, really well. So it's just, it just pops open. Oops. Like so. You wind your threads around it, pop it shut. Easy peasy. I won't try and show you because it'll be awkward, but it's really just that easy. I'm also told that these are called kumihimo bobbins, and you can find them in like bead and jewelry making stores. So you might find them at Joann's or Michael's in those sections. I'm not sure, but if you've got like a store that specializes in beading or beaded jewelry, you should be able to find these or something very similar. So kumihimo bobbins. So hopefully that's helpful, but I've been getting a ton of questions about these both on Instagram and on recent videos, and so wanted to show those again because I showed them several episodes ago, but I know we always get new viewers who may not be as familiar with them. Okay, that's it for questions today. So we'll just wrap up by talking about what we're going to be working on between now and the next time we visit with you. I am going to spend one more day working on Feast of Friendship, and I'll see how far I can get on that. I think if I can make enough progress today, I might actually be in a good position to push for a finish the next time it comes up in my rotation. That may be a little bit ambitious, but it is what I'm kind of hoping for. So we will see if that is a possibility. I am also going to spend a week working on my Fancy Lady, which is Royal Holiday by Mirabilia. And I am doing that as a stitch along with Sarah, she's Stitch Addict on Instagram. I've had a couple comments from folks who have been saying that they would like to get that started. And so if you're looking to start that or thinking about it, I very much encourage you to. We would love to have you join our stitch along. And love to watch you and encourage you as you make progress on that. By the way, if you're not following Sarah on Instagram, you should. She has beautiful designs that she's stitching, and she actually just recently had a finish on Celtic Summer that was lovely. So I would recommend finding her on Instagram and following her. She's got some great projects. I will also continue to work on my Seasons Autumn by Leela's Studio in my travel stitching, so we'll see what kind of progress I can make there. And then I'm really excited because I get to have a new start in my seasonal stitching category. And so I am going to be starting a piece that Gary got me this chart for Valentine's Day a year ago. This is Will You Be My Valentine by Thistles. And so I have picked up all of the called for flosses, or most of the called for flosses, and I've been doing some floss tossing on a few of the fabrics that I have in my stash to pick what I want to stitch this on. But I'm really looking forward to starting this. I think it's going to be a fun stitch and maybe even a fast stitch. Don't want to jinx myself by saying that, but we'll see. So yeah, I think that's it for us this week. I hope that you guys are all doing well, and that if you're able to, you're getting vaccinated. Hope that you're enjoying your stitching. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you're not already a subscriber, I hope that you will subscribe and stick around, and hit the little bell if you want to be notified every time we post a new video. We enjoy all of your comments and interacting with you and hearing what you guys are working on, and it's always fun to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram between updates. I am at globetrotting_stitcher. You can also send me emails to globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. So we will see you very soon, and take care and keep stitching all of the things that give you joy. Bye-bye.